Have you ever started touching yourself, feeling your body heating up, your heartbeat racing, every sense narrowing in on the moment only to suddenly stop? Maybe someone knocked on your door, maybe your phone buzzed, or maybe without even knowing why you just lost interest and pulled away. That happened to me once. I was lying there caught in the middle of desire and frustration. My body felt tense, like energy had built up with nowhere to go. And my mind wouldn't stop repeating the same question. Did I just mess something up? Is this bad for me? It's funny because no one ever talks about this. We hear about orgasms everywhere. We see it in movies and memes and all the casual conversations people half joke about. But what we don't hear is what happens when you don't finish. It's almost like there's this silent taboo around the subject. And silence, I've learned, is where our worries grow the loudest. So I did what I usually do when something bothers me. I started looking for answers. And what I found surprised me. Because it wasn't just about biology. It was about psychology. It was about how our bodies and our minds are wired to crave closure. And when closure doesn't come, we feel restless, unsatisfied, sometimes even irritable. But here's what I also discovered. It doesn't always have to be negative. Sometimes not finishing can actually be intentional. A practice people use to build control, to heighten arousal, and even to make the final release stronger. What once felt like frustration to me started to look more like training or even power. And that's when I realized this topic isn't really about sex alone. It's about how we handle the things we leave unfinished, the text we don't send, the conversation we avoid, the goals we abandon halfway. Your brain hates being cut off midway, whether it's in life or in intimacy. That's why today I want to talk openly about something almost nobody says out loud: what actually happens if you masturbate, but don't finish. Not in a shameful way, not in a judgmental way, just the truth, so you can understand your body better, your mind better, and maybe even your patterns in life better. When arousal builds, your body prepares for climax. Blood rushes into the genitals, nerves become more sensitive, muscles tense, and your whole system gears up for release. But if orgasm doesn't happen, that extra blood doesn't just disappear instantly. For men, this can sometimes feel like a dull ache in the testicles. People jokingly call it blue balls, but the medical term is epididymal hypertension. For women, something similar happens, often called blue vulva. Blood vessels in the pelvic area stay engorged a little longer, creating mild pressure or discomfort. I remember the first time I experienced it, I panicked. I thought, what if something is wrong with me? What if I damaged something? But then I learned that it's harmless. Just like a muscle pumped with blood after a workout, it simply takes time to settle back down. Physical activity. Walking around or even just waiting will naturally ease the sensation. It's uncomfortable, yes, but dangerous, no. Your body knows how to regulate itself. The physical side is only half the story. What fascinated me more was what went on in my head. See, orgasm is linked to brain chemistry. When you climax, your brain releases dopamine and oxytocin, neurochemicals that bring feelings of pleasure, relief, closeness, and relaxation. It's why people often describe it as a release not just physically, but emotionally. So when you don't orgasm, you don't get that chemical cocktail. Instead, you're left with tension, restlessness, irritability. I've felt that more than once. It's like my body kept asking for a finish line that never came, and my brain wasn't sure what to do with all the built-up energy. But then I stumbled across something interesting. Some people actually choose not to finish. It's called edging, bringing yourself close to climax and then stopping, sometimes multiple times, before finally letting go. I decided to experiment with it. And I discovered something new. The final orgasm after holding back felt more intense, and in the process I learned I could train myself to have better control. Edging also taught me a bigger lesson: that meaning shapes experience. When I stopped unintentionally, I felt frustrated. When I stopped intentionally, I felt powerful. The same action, but two very different mindsets. Here's what clicked for me. Unfinished sexual arousal mirrors unfinished business in life. When you leave a task incomplete, your brain stays hooked on it, Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, our tendency to remember and fixate on things we didn't finish more than the ones we did. That's why an unfinished puzzle nags at you. That's why unsent texts haunt you. And that's why stopping in the middle of arousal leaves you restless. But when you choose to pause, when you give meaning to the act, the frustration transforms into anticipation or control. In that way, the psychology of sex isn't separate from the psychology of life. It's the same wiring, the same craving for closure, the same chance to practice patience and perspective. So what should you take away from all this? First, know that not finishing is not harmful. Your body will always return to baseline. Don't let fear convince you otherwise. Second, if you find yourself often unable to orgasm when you want to, that's worth noticing. Stress medications, hormonal changes, or even overuse of porn can all play a role. If it affects your confidence or your relationships, talking to a doctor or therapist can help. I once spoke to a professional, and just understanding what was happening made me feel more at ease. Third, you can use this as practice. Try edging intentionally if you want to build control or make intimacy more exciting. Or simply notice how your body reacts when you don't finish. Instead of judging yourself, treat it as information. And finally, remember the bigger metaphor. When something in life feels unfinished, you always have two choices. You can let it frustrate you, or you can reframe it, turning it into a chance for growth, patience, and control. So, is it bad to masturbate without finishing? No. It might feel tense in the moment, but your body adapts. Sometimes it even makes the next experience stronger. What matters most isn't the act itself, it's how you interpret it. For me, it started as confusion, then frustration. But now I see it as a lesson. About my body, about my mind, about closure. How about you? Have you ever noticed how your body or mind reacts when you don't finish? Did you feel restless, unsatisfied, maybe even more in control? Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this gave you something to think about, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next conversation. Because at the end of the day, learning to listen to yourself, your body, your mind, your unfinished moments isn't just about sex. It's about living more fully with more understanding and more control. Thanks for watching, and remember, you matter.